Hello, in this video we're going to go over how to solve each of these quadratic functions in different ways. So in this first one, it says to solve by factoring. So what we're going to do is move this 7 over to the left side by subtracting from both sides. So we go minus 7 and minus 7 from both sides. And then that gives me x squared minus 6x minus 7 equals 0. And then we need to go ahead and factor. So we're going to write our parentheses and write equal to 0. And I can see that I need an x and an x. And then one way I always like to think about it, you might already see that what this factors to. I'm going to take my negative 7 and make a little factor tree. And I want to choose factors that add to this negative 6. So I can see that I'm going to take negative 7 and a positive 1 because that does two things for me. It gives me this negative when they multiply by each other, and then it adds to this right here. So what do we get? X minus 7 and x plus 1. And then we set these individual pieces equal to 0. X minus 7 equals 0. That gives me x equals 7. And then x plus 1 equals 0. And that gives me x equals negative 1. So what are my solutions to this one? X equals negative 1 and 7. And you can write them in either order. It's all good. Hopefully we're good with that one. All right, next one here. So we want to solve this one by completing the square. First thing we're going to do is take this 3 and move it over to the right side. That's going to give us x squared plus 8x. And then I always like to leave a gap, and then I get equals a positive 3 on the right side. Now what we're going to do, and I'll do my scratch work down here. What I'm going to do is take that 8, this 8 right here, and so that, and I'm going to divide it by 2, so I'm going to write 8 over 2, and then I'm going to square it. That gives me 4 squared, which is equal to 16. And we always do that whenever we're completing the square. If this was a negative 8, I would put a negative there, and I would end up getting the same thing. So the first step is to figure out, and that is that's always b over 2 squared, where b is that middle term number, that x term number. All right, so what do we get? We get x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals, I write my 3, and now here's the deal. When I have an equal sign and I'm doing algebra on either side, if I add a 16 to the left side, I also need to add a 16 to the right side. So I get plus 16. Now, the reason why we added that 16 is because this factors down to something squared on the left side. What's it factor down to? X plus 4 squared. And you should be good at factoring. You should be able to factor that. One thing I want to point out is that the b over 2 before I square is always going to be this value right here. And that works even if I had a negative right here. I would get a minus 4. All right, so what do we do on the right side? We combine our like terms, and we get a 19. And then next thing I'm going to do is square root both sides. So maybe I'll write that in green. So I square root this side and square root that side. What's that give me on the left side? That gives me x plus 4 equals. What's that give me on the right side? We always get a plus or minus when we square root. And I get my root 19 like that. The last step is to subtract 4 from both sides. And when we do that, I get a minus 4 here. That cancels. And then a minus 4 on the right side too. And I'm going to just move this over there. And then we get x equals a negative 4 plus or minus square root 19. Put a big box around my answer. That's the answer for that one. A couple things I want to point out for this. The root 19 is not a number that I can square root easily, so we just leave it as root 19, and that's totally acceptable. Second thing I want to point out, always want to make sure you have the plus or minus. because that gives us two solutions. Third thing, back to that root 19, if you were able to give a decimal as an answer, you could type this into your calculator and give the answer as a decimal, and that's totally acceptable. Last thing I want to point out, if we have a negative number in here, for example, if I say this was a negative 30 instead of a 3, and we were to combine these and get a negative number here, then we would have the square root of a negative number, and I would say no solutions because I need to work with imaginary numbers in order to have negative numbers inside of my roots, and we are working with real numbers here. So hopefully that's good, and coming up next is letter C. All right, letter C. We are going to solve with the quadratic formula. So first step here is the same as what I did with all the others, which is to move the 52 over. So I'm going to get x squared minus 8x minus 52 equals 0. So from here, I want to identify A, B, and C. A is equal to 1. If I had a 7 there, then A would be equal to 7. B is equal to negative 8. And C is equal to negative 52. I'll write out the quadratic formula. Quadratic formula is x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, whoops, undo, all over 2a. So from here, what do we need to do? We need to plug in our different values. A is going to go in right here. B is going to go in here and here. Sorry, and then A is also going to go in there. And then this C value is going to go in right there. So let's go ahead and just plug and chug. What do I get? I get x equals, all right, whoops, boink. I'm going to write my long fraction bar. All right, so a negative 8 plus or minus square root negative 8 squared minus 4 times A is 1 times C is negative 52 all over 2 times 1 because A is 1.